Commissioners,
You want the hammer?
today's date is December 12th, 2023. The time is 2:01 p.m. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks and Matari, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. The first item is a moment of silence. Okay, next is the Pledge of Allegiance. David, would you like to start us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just for the record, Commissioner Duncan is excused today. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion on the meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes, items 1 through 4.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, next up is the consent calendar. Motion?
Yep. I move that we approve the consent calendars, items 5 through 9.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, next up is payables. You want to go ahead and do that?
Sure.
Okay. I move that we approve payables for December 4 through 8, 2023, in the amount of $1,541,996.11, and jury panel payments in the amount of $2,138.18.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, next up, a business item, item 11, financial budget authorization to expend restricted use fund balance for Boathouse remodel project, Parks and Waterways. Do we have Director Snyder on the phone?
Yes, Commissioner. Thank you. Nick Snyder for the record. Well, foremost, board, my apologies. On December 5th, I had presented a contract with Stancraft Marine for some needed work on the boathouse. However, I had mistakenly stated that that funding was available in our current budget when I meant to say our funding is available in our current fund balance in boat launch user fee account. So that said, I wanted to ensure that the record was corrected and the board had accurate information as to what funds would be used to pay for the project. I also reached out to our finance director to confirm the fund balance was sufficient. She affirmed that there is ample funding. So with that, I'm requesting the board authorization to expend $18,085.64 necessary to execute the contract that the board approved on December 5th with Stancraft Marine so we can complete the work on the boathouse.
How much was that, Nick?
It's $18,085.64 as per the December 5th contract that I presented.
$18,085.
$85.60.
Okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
And 60.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? No? Motion?
I move that we approve or authorize Parks and Waterways to expend restricted fund balance in the amount of $18,085.69 for the Boathouse remodel project.
64 cents, and I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, motion approved. Next up is KCSO and Dalton Gardens law enforcement agreement with the City of Dalton Gardens and Sheriff's Office. Captain Smart, please.
Kevin Smart for the record. Commissioners, this is our agreement with Dalton Gardens for this year, a contract for law enforcement services. And I think the biggest thing just to note on this is it is retroactive as of October 1, 2023.
Okay, any questions? Motion?
I move that we approve the law enforcement agreement between KCSO and Dalton Gardens. That's it.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Motion is approved. Next up, item 13, board approval request. Request for funding at the shooting range Building update, adult misdemeanor probation, Keith Hutchinson, Director.
Good afternoon now, Commissioners. How you doing today? Coming in front of you, I'm asking for some money out of fund balance. It was an unbudgeted item. I attended about 4 weeks ago the range staff meeting. And as I was listening to the range staff meeting and hearing all the departments kick in and do extra things at the range, Coeur d'Alene Police Department just put a whole cement pad inside the building. The current building just has a shell right now. We need to be able to insulate it, frame it out inside, and then we need some heat and air conditioning inside the building with some lighting. And also, we want to move the air compressor inside once it's insulated. What we're requesting is $18,024 to outfit the building that we would like to get it done to. We need a foundation. We don't have running water up there. We just have power up there right now, but we need a foundation to start somewhere. So that's why I'm asking you to support this. Currently, I have Trooper Scotch with me. The Sheriff's Department, Coeur d'Alene Police Department are sitting in the crowd here to show their support for this. It's a countywide used law enforcement only shooting range. And I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioner Brooks?
Do you have air handling equipment in there?
No, we haven't advanced that far. It's a shell right now, but the air handling system and everything else, Sergeant Brakey, if he would come up, he would understand because he's the one that's going to be framing it in, and also he's the one that got the bids for the HVAC system. So if I could have Sergeant Brakey.
Yeah, I'm worried about people inhaling lead fumes.
Yes, I would have him come up and explain that to me.
And I apologize. What question did you have for me?
Well, air handling in a gun range.
So the range itself is all outdoor shooting. So air handling is not for lead abatement
Okay.
or the vapors. What we're trying to finish is right now, for lack of a better term, it's a pole barn that we use for kind of a classroom for getting people outside the weather.
Okay, there'll be no active shooting in there.
Correct.
More of a clubhouse.
Yes, correct.
It's a classroom for briefing, debriefing, and then
No,
to
it's
add
good.
the elements.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just asked if that could be put into my budget, and then I would have my range master, Steve Johnson, oversee the project with Sergeant Brakey and Coeur d'Alene and Sergeant
Do you
Scotch.
feel like you could offset that a little bit with your budget this year?
I have nothing in my budget towards
Yeah.
that.
So this would come out of fund balance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and have you run it by the finance director yet?
Yes, Brandy, yes, I have.
Okay.
How much is it?
$18,024.
Okay. Now, I move that we approve the request by adult misdemeanor probations for $18,024 toward their shooting range building. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
up is item 14, board approval request, first use of $1,000 fine with community development. David Callahan.
Commissioners, David Callahan, Community Development Director. I wanted to have this dialogue with you today because before we go off and use this $1,000 a day fine, and now I would only actually use it one time, one day, if you're in concurrence today, just to get the owner's notice or attention, if you will. But the reason I thought it was worth having a discussion is this is one where it's been bad and problematic for nearly 3 years, but it's gotten much worse recently, and the owner is well aware of it. And so it seems like the owner's doing these things with impunity, and these things are on the screen. The only thing that's permitted on this property, I'll show you the screenshot of the property in just a moment. The only thing that's actually permitted is a drive-through coffee shop. Everything else, including a U-Haul rental, trailer sales, recreational vehicles, those are all things we have not reviewed. There's a sign out there that doesn't meet county code. There's an office being used that doesn't have a building permit. So there's not only land use violations, there are also building code violations. And The worrisome part about it to me is it's in a highly trafficked area. That's what it was like some time ago. This is what it's like today. So you can see a pretty big
Can you see that?
change. I'll go back. That's, if you look, see where the coffee stand, where it says coffee stand. Now look at all the new stuff all around that. Those are the RVs, the trailers, and so on. And we've told them in writing in January and again in February, but again, this goes back to 21, the original permit. And we've had this conversation, I've had the conversation with the owner back in 2021. And so I know he knows. And he's going forward with these things with impunity. And so here, everything you see on the screen, with the exception of in the background, the drive-through coffee shop, which is right there, everything else is unpermitted. So with your concurrence, I'd like to call this man, say, we need you to come into compliance. Are you willing to work with us? And if he says yes, that's one thing. If he says no, or there's no response, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to do the $1,000 fine.
What has he said to you verbally in the past?
Well, in the past, he said he was going to comply, but as you can see, it's gotten worse rather than better. And Craig, our code enforcement officer, Craig Davidson's here, and can give you more details of exactly where we are on this.
I would like to hear that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Craig Davidson, Code Compliance Supervisor, Community Development Department. We haven't had any conversation other than a written email that the Director showed you back in January, subsequently followed up by Ben Tarbutton, our Planning Manager, in February. We've heard nothing from these folks. Now, to be objective, the property owner, there may be a landlord-tenant thing here, we're not certain, but ultimately, the same property owner is in fact listed from Aumentum from the 2021 date that they got or applied for the special notice, excuse me, permit. So, again, nothing, but I will call both of them after this meeting to see where we are on a couple of things and what their understanding is, just to confirm, again, it may be a landlord-tenant issue. But regardless, the property owner is well aware of this. And if you remember correctly, the previous board, this was brought to you folks via a telephone conversation for some of the things that he was neglectful about. And he was told by the board at that time.
That was in 21.
And that was, yes. So this is pretty much an in-your-face kind of thing,
So
to be candid.
So he's basically saying, I will comply, but his actions speak otherwise.
Absolutely.
Okay. My take on a lot of this is that, there's a compact that we have in this community of how we're going to grow, how we're going to manage growth, what we're going to allow and not allow to occur in this community. And this, to me, is clearly, at this point in time, because it's been going on for years, one of those situations where, from my perspective, I think it makes sense to proceed and make sure that the property owner is given proper notice of this and see what happens. I think the communication probably should be in writing from the property owner from this point forward, because without an actual record,
Well, just so you know, Commissioner Matari, we do have a recorded notice of violation against him from 2022.
Okay.
So
All right, well, that's good. Commissioner Brooks?
Has he put Christmas lights on all his crap?
not yet, Commissioner, not as of a week ago.
I'd just tell him it's now time,
Right.
but I'm completely in support of the fine.
And ultimately, remember, you have the discretion to suspend fees assessed as necessary or,
Sure.
but I think this is one where it meets the level of egregiousness, and I think we should proceed in that direction.
Well, it risks a hazard too, just with the traffic situation, so.
Right. And you do have a life safety issue with the shed being used as an office. It's unpermitted for a change of use permit and everything else.
And back to your point on traffic, ITD hasn't permitted this, and they need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion?
Motion? I move that we approve the request for, I'm sorry, approve the request for the $1,000 fine to community development.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 15, board approval request, Historic Preservation Commission budget carry forward of $500 from FY23 to FY24. Resource Management Office, this is an action item. Michael Bennett.
Michael Bennett, Resource Management, for the record. I'm respectfully requesting a carry forward from the Historic Preservation Commission's fiscal year 23 budget of $500 into their fiscal year 24 budget to cover the previously board-approved allocation on August 1st, 2023 for the Northwest Vernacular Contract to create a context for the Historic Preservation Plan for the county. The remainder of that budget is being covered by a CLG grant.
Questions? No? Want to do the motion?
Yeah. I move that we approve the request for the Historic Preservation Commission budget carry forward of $500 from FY23 to FY24.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, motion's approved. Next up is item 16, board approval request, Bouten Construction Change Management Memorandum with Resource Management Officer and Caitlin Smith.
Good afternoon, Caitlin Smith for the record. This memo summarizes the process for construction cost management as defined in the agreement between Kootenai County and Bouten Construction dated December 20th, 2022. Bouten seeks board confirmation that this process remains agreeable, and second, Bouten asks that the board confirm David Mendez and Leslie Duncan's designations as owner representatives going forward, who shall therefore review and approve usage of Bouten's contingency on behalf of the board and shall review change order requests before change orders are brought to the board.
So we're replacing the old person that's on there with David Mendez.
Yes.
Thank you.
No
No
problem.
question. Okay. I move that we approve the request for Bouten Construction Change Management Memorandum with Resource Management Officer.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Motion approved. Item 17, Independent Contractor Agreement, Jody Bieze, BOCC. Commissioner Duncan would have discussed this one, but I'll go ahead. This is basically a contract because of a reorganization within the department, and so I'm pretty sure that Commissioner Brooks, you're familiar with it.
Very much.
Yeah, so unless there's any questions or discussion, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the independent contractor agreement between Jody Bieze and the BOCC.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Motion approved. Next up is item 18, board approval request, KC North Utilities with the auditor. It's an action item, and Brandy Falcon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brandy Falcon for the record. So the Sheriff's Office has just requested that we clarify who's taking over the utility billings once they vacate their current location to move to KC North. So, and this does have a budget impact. So during the budget cycle for 2024, I asked departments as well as the board multiple times if we should be budgeting for any upcoming expenses for KC North. And the answer I was given was no, because nobody knows what's happening yet. So none of this is budgeted, but we do need to determine who's paying these bills. So I gave you guys a handout that lines out, line by line, all of the utility accounts and what budgets are currently paying for each one. So I would like to determine the appropriate department to take over billings for each of these. So the first three lines, that's the Pierce Clegg building. Once the Sheriff's Office leaves, the only department in that building will be the coroner. I think it would make sense for the coroner's budget to take on those utility billings, if you agree. And I did bring all this to the facility working group, and Commissioner Duncan told me it was a decision that had to be made by the board as a whole, so that's why I'm here bringing it before you. So I think those first three lines should go to the coroner's budget. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that. You have any thoughts?
I guess the first thought is, do we want to do this with Commissioner Duncan here, or
How do we have to do this soon?
Because as of December 1st, it's my understanding that we are now taking possession of KC North. The sheriff's office is here if they need to correct anything I'm saying. But as of December 1st, these utilities switch into the county's name. So now the sheriff is paying double utilities.
Oh, that's okay.
And then once they vacate where they're at,
Can we wait till next Tuesday?
Sure, if you guys want to wait until
I would
next
like-
Tuesday,
yeah,
till Leslie is here.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
And that would probably carry for the next item too.
exactly.
Sure, that's the funding for KC North items.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait till next week.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so both items 17 and 18, we will, I'm sorry, 18 and 19, we
18
will
and
carry
19.
till next week.
Yeah.
You don't need a motion.
Oh, I move that we postpone items 18 and 19 until next week.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, next item is 20, Project Management Services Agreement with Turner and Townsend and Heery and the BOCC. Again, this is another item that Commissioner Duncan would have discussed. We have been working with Heery as the short name for him for several weeks now. I think we're all in agreement that we want to get this executed, so you don't have any objection to moving forward on that. I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the project management services agreement with Turner and Townsend. Heery, is it how it's pronounced? LLC and the BOCC.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Matari.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Next up, item 21, financial budget. Assessor, Bela Kovacs, public records request of Treasurer's Office with the Treasurer and Steve Matheson.
Good afternoon. Kootenai County Assessor Bela Kovacs has submitted a public records request that will cost the county at least $20,741 in unloaded wages. As allowed by statute, I will be requiring Bela to pay the estimated costs before I proceed with his request. As you know, Kootenai County Policy 930 requires BOCC approval for large unbudgeted operating expenditures. As a result, the board should expect Bela's request of at least $20,741. I have tried to help Bela clarify and narrow his request. Unfortunately, he has only expanded it. Either Bela, 1, doesn't understand Idaho public records law, or 2, he is intentionally placing this financial burden onto the county and its taxpayers. When focusing on just one aspect of his public records request, Bela has asked for approximately 49,779 emails. As you know, each email must be reviewed to prevent confidential and exempted information from being inadvertently released. Some of the requested emails contain communications regarding personnel issues, litigation, and other exempt information. Consequently, the first level of review will be performed by the Chief Deputy Treasurer. Many of these emails will require second review by legal to provide statutory exemptions for any denial or redaction. Bela is already the custodian of many of these emails, yet he is directing the request to the Treasurer's Office. Approximately 9,605 emails are between employees of the Assessor and employees of the Treasurer, making him a joint custodian of these records. I have only estimated the wages for the initial review of the 49,779 emails. This estimated cost does not include any legal reviews, nor does it address the hundreds of other public records Bela is also requesting. I'm not asking for anything from you, I'm just giving you a heads up.
Any questions?
Now, what should we do there, Mr. Treasurer?
Pardon?
What should we do?
Well, wait for the
I mean,
request.
it seems to me we've got an individual making a hash of county government, or attempting to. Is that,
I don't disagree with that statement.
Commissioners, may I weigh in?
I don't think so, Bela.
Well, that's not the characterization of my request. That is an incorrect characterization. I am not asking to incur any costs. So what I'd like to do is have a further discussion with Mr. Matheson after this meeting and refine and narrow down my request.
Yeah,
So
but you do understand that requesting 49, 50,000 emails.
I did not request 49, 50,000 emails. I made a general statement in my request, and had I had the opportunity to have a conversation to the extent that of the information I'm now learning, certainly I would have altered it. So
Thank you.
I am just asking for that opportunity to have that conversation.
These
So-
are email correspondence between Bela and I where I've attempted to try to have him reduce or restrict the amount of information requested. He has denied doing that and has requested emphatically that I reply to his 3 separate requests. You can look at item B, for example. I mean, it's all here. So what he has just stated is factually incorrect.
Just out of curiosity, is this request motivated to kind of identify processes within your department and enhance them or make them more efficient, or is this for finger
Absolutely.
pointing?
Well, no, it's for processes. It's because of the issues that we've been dealing with. Certainly, it's the process. That's the focus.
Then why would you want the treasurer's emails for your own department?
Well, there's processes that go throughout. So, for example, the assessors, the treasurers, and the Board of Equalization, the clerk's office, we're all involved in carrying out our specific functions and duties under Title 63. And so, Commissioner, when you raised the question about whether we had systemic problems or issues in the meeting on, I believe the date was November 16th, initially my response to you was, no, the error that we were discussing was not a systemic mistake. I got to thinking about that further, and I thought, well, I know there are other issues that have reoccurred, and so as I began to think that more through, I believe we do have some concern. I do have some concerns about some reoccurring issues and problems, and so I'm looking for information to be able to tackle that. That is the origin and the reason for my making the request.
Yeah, but as you can see with your request, I mean, it's onerous. You know, it's broad. It requires a lot of resources to go through it. And as you know,
Certainly.
with broad requests like that, everything
I am listening.
just everything has to be reviewed by council, which really becomes a very expensive process. I would argue that given the fact that we know of the specific AINs that have to be adjusted, let's look at those and run those from point A to Z and figure out where along that line did that process, could it have been improved, where it may have broken a little bit, as opposed to starting with the treasurer with broad requests that could end up costing thousands and thousands of dollars.
So the objective is not to incur thousands and thousands of dollars. And I have dealt with numerous public records requests myself, and it is not uncommon for there to be more than a once back and forth exchange between the requester and the agency that has the record. So I don't think it would have been unreasonable for Steve Matheson to respond back to me yet again on this. And certainly, let me know what the reality is of the situation, and I'll adjust it. I'm not going to be unreasonable in making my request.
Yeah.
So Bela, would you like to reclassify or reclarify your statement that I've misrepresented your request?
I will say that there was a misunderstanding. It's clear to me now.
By whom?
By both of us.
Oh, okay.
I will say that there's a misunderstanding, and so let me say this, so that Steve Matheson doesn't feel the pressure of the time response of the request. I will withdraw this public records request. He and I will talk, and my objective is that we work together mutually to find out what the systemic problems are.
I'm just out of curiosity. Did you speak with the treasurer before you submitted this request last week?
I did not.
Okay. You know, just maybe as a matter of courtesy, this is how I operate, but I'd like to at least have a conversation about what might be coming down the pipeline. make sure conceptually it makes sense, and then just follow up in an email as a matter of official record for the request. But at least that way people don't kind of get blindsided, I think, because that actually opens the door to people wondering what the intent of what your actions are, and it allows people to think maybe not necessarily what you're thinking.
Your point is well made, Commissioner.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Since the topic has been brought up, I have a request. The issue that I think that we're supposed to be looking at is there are errors in valuation, and do we have systems in place to catch them so we avoid being in a position like we have been in the last month? Maybe that should be addressed first before reaching out to the other departments, because our office has nothing to do with valuation errors.
Yeah.
How are we going to help?
And I understand, and I think that's really where I was trying to go with, looking at the initial AINs that we've had to make these adjustments to, and starting there. From my perspective, and I think other elected officials would agree, at least I hope they would, when you win, the rest of us win. So we want to have these issues resolved, identified, and figure out a good way to manage to them. And I think it helps if we spend more time talking and less with sending emails until we're all on the same page of what we're really looking for. So with that said, I'm happy to have the two of you talk a little bit.
That's fine, but I just wonder, Bela, would you be willing to at least concede that you are the co-custodian of nearly 7,000 of these emails, and you could simply review those as well?
Absolutely. There's
What was your intent of requiring me to do that after I repeatedly told you that you were the co-custodian of those records?
Well, my intent was not to ask you to give me copies of records that I already had.
It's in the email that you were asking me repeatedly, yes, give it to me, when I pointed it out to you that you're the co-custodian.
So
what was the rationale? What possibly were you trying to do?
So there are emails that, emails develop a life of their own. Additional individuals are
They're all well aware, especially the ones coming out of the assessor's office.
emails develop a life of their own, and additional individuals are tagged onto emails, and so there could be a thread of an email that it extends into processes. I'm just trying to look under every stone, because I feel like we've got some systemic issues, and I want to address them.
Regarding those systemic issues, I do intend to come back in front of the board in the next couple of weeks to expand upon that a little bit further, because I find it equally as appalling and a waste of time. So we'll explore that next week or the following week as well.
Yeah, well, I again will reemphasize, I think the place to start is with the AINs that we know there's an issue. And look at the entire process from A to Z and figure out where that slipped through the cracks. And then we can expand from there if that doesn't seem to address any potential systemic issues.
Agreed, and like you and I were exchanging in an email earlier today about cataloging, categorizing the cause, looking for the root cause analysis. That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of why even the board has changed some of its processes so that moving forward, we can identify, we're looking for patterns in essence to figure out where these issues may lay and address them. So I appreciate your willingness to work with us on that.
Agreed.
So with that, I don't think we need a motion or anything.
No.
So we will move on to item 22, Resolution 2023-81, BOCC, declaring necessity and authorizing contract for outside attorney services for the assessor, Mr. Kovacs.
Commissioners, if I may explain, on the 14th of November, when the board approved and signed the contract, there were two action items. One was to make a verbal resolution, which the board did act on and made a verbal resolution. The second item was to actually execute the contract. Later that week, when I actually delivered, the attorney came into my office and I had the opportunity to give them the contract, they pointed out to me, they asked for the resolution. They pointed out to me that the actual agreement itself required a written resolution. And that was in the agreement. The agreement was reviewed by legal counsel. The board had that agreement in its possession for about a little over 2 weeks. That agreement didn't change from the first delivery that I made to the board, which was, I believe, on October 31st. And I looked a little bit further, and I was not here for the beginning part of this meeting. I know that this board today approved the minutes from the November 14th meeting, which the minutes are written, which would be a written form of the verbal resolution if it's in the minutes. And I actually looked at the minutes that were the draft. I don't know if that's what you approved or not. It does seem to me that the content of the verbal resolution, if the minutes reflect it correctly, does not meet the requirements that are spelled out in the Attorney General's letter 93-8. The other issue I want to raise, and I'll get back to the Attorney General letter in a minute, but the other issue I would like to mention is apparently there's a Supreme Court decision in the state versus, and I can't pronounce this name, it is YZAGUIRRE. That's a 2007 decision. And it basically pertains to the actions of a public entity, a board of county commissioners that are conducted in an open meeting, and that's a different law than the public records. And the open meeting law does not give an opportunity to put something down verbally. It has to be in writing. The case decision in that case law that I cited is pretty similar to what our situation is here. And I can forward that to you. It's actually in the memorandum that I gave to the board for this agenda item. And so what I'm asking the board to do is to approve the written resolution that I presented 3 times. This is the 4th time now. I would like to say that the efforts that I extended in finding the attorney were not the efforts that were conducted by the board. They were the efforts that were conducted by me. I reviewed the statute, the supporting statutes. I interviewed and met with the attorneys. The recommendation and the need for attorney services is not the board's, it's for the assessor. Therefore, even though the Board of County Commissioners signs the resolution, it is not the resolution of the Board of County Commissioners, it's the resolution of the assessor. It's my recommendation, and I'm asking you to approve the written recommendation because it covers and recites all of the facts, all of the supporting laws, and all the effort that was put into it. And that is what I present to you today.
Commissioner Brooks, do you have any questions? No. Assessor Kovacs, 2 questions. One, are you giving us some legal interpretation of case law and statutes?
I am not an attorney, but I can read the English language and I can comprehend the English language, and all I'm doing is conveying to you what I've read.
Okay, but it's you're conveying it with an interpretation, in essence, to a degree.
I think sooner or later we all have to take action, and so I'm simply presenting facts to you that were mentioned to me when I delivered the contract, and I feel that the duty is incumbent upon me to present that to the board.
And what we did last month at this point is not sufficient for you to proceed with the attorney that you selected?
The attorney has asked for a written resolution in the contract. The board has reviewed the contract. The attorneys our attorney has reviewed it. The resolution that I drafted was modified by Stan Mortensen. I'm not going to try to interpret case law, but if you read the Attorney General letter, it does indicate in Attorney General letter 93-8 that where there is a conflict between what the prosecuting attorney says and what the Board of County Commissioners says when it comes to contracting for legal services, that the authority of the prosecuting attorney prevails because it is the last expression of the will of the legislature.
Well, is the prosecuting attorney here or on the phone where he could talk about this?
Well, he signed the memorandum that I originally presented this resolution in. And that memorandum does make reference to the attached resolution.
Yeah.
The resolution has not changed. He made edits to it. And so the resolution that I gave to you was technically approved as to content and form, but it was not an endorsement by the prosecuting attorney of the selection of the attorney. It was simply looking at the document.
If he's not here, I would, look, I don't know why your attorney is demanding a resolution, okay? Because the board gave you authority to proceed. The board gave you a budget, okay? And it keeps coming back to us, and I
Well,
don't
my-
understand, right?
My understanding is that if it's not done correctly, if you please review the Attorney General Letter 93-8, attorney fees have been disgorged in the past. If it's not done properly, where a case of necessity has been done, and has to be reviewable in the record of the county, excuse me. And so,
Well, then, at this point, we really need the opinion of the prosecuting attorney who
I understand
who
that.
looked at this, because I have some questions about it. Because, again, this resolution does not include the budget that we originally discussed, and that gives me some concern that it's not in there. And I want to make sure that this isn't something that we agree to, and then down the road, it's, because we're getting into technicality, so to speak, that the technicality comes back at the board's feet because we didn't have that technically in the resolution. And so until I have an opportunity to speak to the prosecuting attorney about it, I'm not willing to proceed forward with that. Now, if you want to talk to Commissioner Brooks about it, he might have a different take.
I can understand your position, Commissioner.
Yeah.
I will not permit the contract to exceed the budget. We've had discussions about whether it makes sense to talk about a budget in the previous meetings. Again, I've expressed my concerns about that because I think that, like I said before, that conveys a message to the opponent that we may not be entirely committed to defending fair and equitable assessments. I think that's a problem. But be that as it may, this board has decided to set a budget. Realistically, there will always be a budget. So I get that.
There
So-
always is.
There
There's
always
always
is.
a limit,
There's always a limit.
unless you can find that tree that's growing the bills.
I realize that. And I understand what you're saying, that you want to
Yeah.
confer with Stan Mortensen.
I think that would be the appropriate thing to do for the board at this point. Commissioner Brooks, do you want to make a resolution?
No,
I'm sorry, no, okay.
no.
I would say that we put it off till next week then.
Can this be automatically re-entered, or am I going to have to re-add it to the agenda next week?
I think it starts with a conversation with the prosecuting attorney, and either the three of us can sit down
Okay.
and talk, and then kind of go from there. So if we can get some sort of a meeting put together as soon as tomorrow, I know I have time available, we can get this back on, I think, fairly painlessly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, item 23, status update. The first one is facilities expansion. Commissioner Duncan's not here, but
I just joined. Sorry, I just joined a couple minutes ago.
okay. All right. Would you like to give an update, or should we have David Mendez, who's here, giving us an update?
Yeah, I think Dave can give us that. And I noticed that there is a correction that needs to be made on that pending list because the RFQ was not put on the jail portion. It was put on a different box. So I'll take care of that when I get back to the office. But yes, please, let's hear from Mr. Mendez.
All right. There you go. The show is yours, David.
Thank you. David Mendez, Heery, for the record. Just report construction status. They're proceeding through the cold weather. They've employed snow blankets and hydronic heating in order to keep those pours going on. So that you still see that happening on site, pouring of foundation walls. The contractor is in the process of putting together a request for an impact request to tap into the existing building, so that'll be coming up for review and approval. They plan to do that in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Addendum number 1 went out for for the work package 3 work, and that included an extension of the bid date to December 21st, and that has mainly to do with the size of the addendum drawings, the content of that addendum. So the contractors are going to need a little more time to assess those the impact to their costs. And that also has to do, a big part of that was the added fireproofing that was required. The contractor is still assessing options on whether they can mitigate that without having to employ all the additional costs for this fireproofing. Addendum number 2 will be coming out on the 14th in 2 days, and that will mainly address questions from contractors, although this first addendum did address 30-some questions from contractors. So I have forwarded and sent to you the, we talked previously about value engineering proposals. I've given you a list a little bit longer than I told you last time of, I said 16, and there's actually 6 more that I added to it. We didn't have drawings, electrical and mechanical drawings, but there's some standard items that they look at. I did run those past the contractor, so I put notes, comments on the side that some of these items have already been considered by the contractor. So my understanding is we want to meet afterwards and go through the specifics of each one of those to see whether it's worth pursuing and presenting to the contractor for their consideration. I did not forward this to you, but it is a summary of items in soft costs, so I need to put dollars to these, but I do have a list of items that I did not see in the soft costs that were included in your budgeting.
Okay,
And,
good.
We can go through those as well. I've got an extra copy for the board.
And thank you for that list as well. That was a good start.
Okay. That's all I have to report to you at this point. I don't have, there are some proposed changes that will need to be, I'll need to review those before I report to you on what my thoughts are on the costs that have been presented. So there's CCD, which is contract change directive 1, 2, and 3 that are currently on work package 2 that will need to be assessed and discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Duncan, did you
I have
want
a
to?
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't get any email.
Didn't hear
Sorry, you kind of blurred out a little bit. Can you say that again?
I did not get any emails with these 22 items or the soft costs or anything like that.
David, can you forward that to
I
Commissioner
can,
Duncan?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, next up is impact fees. And I spoke with the county attorney this morning, and he tended to agree with me that the Rathdrum city attorney brought up some valid points, and so we're going to be looking at making some adjustments, perhaps before this public hearing, but the ball is in his court, and he knows what needs to be done. Next up is the jail pods. Bill, I don't know if you've heard anything on that.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, Commissioner Duncan?
Oh, sorry, I was not on mute. I have not heard anything recently either. I suppose I could just give an email out to Tom and figure out where they're at, because I think it was under review. I think it was, the RFQ was done and it was under review, then it would be submitted once it was reviewed.
Okay. Next up is ARPA projects. Caitlin?
Good afternoon, Caitlin Smith for the record. For this week's ARPA project summary, there are no changes. As of today, the Justice Building is marked as on budget. We have not received information which alters this status.
Okay. We probably should, in the future, add the project cost and not just the construction cost, so that we can have a full-blown expense for the county and what we have to draw upon in our reserve fund in order to complete this project, and then make sure that we're on budget with that as well. So, thank you. And then finally is PMR. Commissioner Duncan?
Yeah, I don't know if Sylvia's in the audience, but we are expecting a contract today, and Sylvia might have gotten it already.
Yeah, she stepped out of the room. So, Brandy, did you want to?
I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask. The funding for the Townsend Heery contract, is that going to come from the savings from the facilities director position, or what were you thinking to fund that with?
I think that's where we're going to start, and then,
Okay.
yeah,
Start with the salary savings.
yes.
And I was also wondering if I could ask about the status of the Children's Village. I don't believe we have a subrecipient agreement with them. I know that it's been pending for a long time. I just want to know where we're at with that.
To answer, we were asked for a little more time to complete the legal review, and at this time, we're planning to have it on next week's business meeting, the presentation of that legal opinion on their application.
The legal opinion next week. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, next up is public comment. Would anyone like to say anything? Jonathan, anyone on the phone? No? Okay, that's it. It is 2:52 p.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.